Welcome to the show. Our special guest is the 2016 WBFF Pro Fitness Model World Champion. She's a coach, teacher, speaker, entrepreneur, all-around savage. We welcome Sydney, Australia's own Hattie BOYDLE.
Thank you for having me. What an introduction.
Yeah, we're all about intros around these parts. So I wanted to kick things off a little bit about the World Beauty Fashion Fitness, WBFF. To our fans listening and watching, could you explain a little bit about what that is?
So the WBFF is essentially it was one of the biggest fitness shows that you could do, but more than a fitness show, it is. I like to think of it as more of a beauty pageant. It isn't just your physique; it is your personality, your style, your individuality, your beauty, your stage presence, your marketability. It is, more than just being on stage. It's your, I guess your social media, your own drive. I call it like a platform of opportunity for a lot of fitness models. Because, for example, for myself, I got chosen to be a part of the WWE wrestling tryouts from the WBFF. I don't think I would have had that opportunity without it. So
it's like a stepping stone.
Yeah, it's now becoming one of the biggest federations out there. It's more than a federation, it's more of an organization actually. And there's nothing like it when it comes to the caliber of athletes, how we interact with each other. I've met the most amazing women and people from this event that I compete against. It's very much a big family, and I think that's why it's growing so quickly, because they're seeing so much love and support that the athletes give each other. And when I get on that stage, there's just no other feeling.
That's what I wanted to talk about. It seems very, empowerment is a word that comes to mind. When I put it on my socials, that Instagram and Twitter, that I was going to have you on the show, people were sending me messages, and then people that I really didn't have a relationship that well, even in this gym, 30 other coaches, my relationship with them had grown because they knew I was going to speak to you. I wanted to talk about the fashion side of it, because I grew up with 3 sisters and my mom, and there's a photo of you on your website. I think you're on stage and you have the wings behind you, and you look like you're walking down stage, almost it looks like a Victoria's Secret, like how they have the back piece. Are you in charge of everything? Are you in charge of the walk? Do you do the choreography? Or do you have a team behind you that's helping you with all these things when you're on stage and competing in the WBFF?
When I first started, before I became a pro athlete, I did everything myself. I was self-taught. I looked at YouTube for influence and inspiration, and because I really had no idea what I was doing. When I became a pro athlete, I started working. I wanted to expand my, my experience and my knowledge, and you start to work with teams of other people. So now, I work with a posing coach, and we together come up with it, because it's hard to replicate something that someone else wants you to do. You have to have your own energy behind it. I know that if someone told me to be sexy, I just wouldn't work for me. I'm a powerhouse. I'm energetic.
Yeah.
I call myself a lioness on stage. So I have to bring that. But it is nice to get feedback from people. And then when it comes to the bikini, God, I could never make my bikini, and I couldn't make my own theme wear. So I actually
But the color scheme, do you say, I want the gold, I want the silver, I want the blue? Does that all come into, is that all you in terms of your vision?
I think this year very much, I had full direction of my vision. In the past, I've let the theme wear designers go, what do you see for me? And they've come up with, amazing things. I literally feel like my bikini is my war piece. Like, I'm going out to battle. I feel like a warrior in this incredible, I call it a masterpiece that these amazing designers, the official WBFF theme wear designers, make for me. And they custom it to me and my personality. But this year, because for this year is for me is the most important, because I truly have to beat myself to be crowned again. I wanted direction, and so I told them the colours that I'm thinking. I could work with them on what energy I wanted to bring to the stage this year in terms of my theme wear and my colours. So I am very excited.
Yeah, so I know this August, I think 3rd week, you have London coming up. But I want to talk about last year in Toronto. You were facing, was she a 4-time champ?
4 times.
So let's talk a little bit about the mindset going into that and the feeling it felt when you were on stage. And then did you know you were going to win? Or was it kind of like when they announced the winners, were you shocked? Were you surprised? Or were you visualizing it over and over that you had it in the bag?
Last year, I wasn't shy of telling people that I wanted to be the world champion.
Yeah.
I always knew I'd be the world champion. As you know, people might call that ego, but I call it pride. I call it self-belief. I always knew I would be the champion. I didn't know when. I honestly didn't think last year was going to be my year. You know, I've been very, very, very lucky that I've been able to be against Andrea 3 years in my as a pro athlete.
So you've competed against her before you beat her. Interesting.
You know, and I feel so lucky that I got to stand next to her multiple times, and she's just incredible. You know, she set the standard very high for the rest of us, and you know, to have beaten her that year, I was very surprised. I actually didn't, it's only taken me like 6 months for it to sink in, really.
Yeah.
And then go, oh my God, now you have to back that up and win it again. Then you better, you know, sort your mindset out. Yeah. Because I was failing in that part of my life with my mindset going, do you really believe you're good enough?
Or belong. Like one of my favorite quotes you talked about, you had the, you know, it was a pleasure competing against her the years prior. And it's the Newton quote, the Giants quote, if I've seen farther than you, it's not because I'm taller, it's because I've been standing on the shoulders of giants. And that's how we get better. We have to put ourselves in these uncomfortable scenarios, vulnerable scenarios, and not all the times that we win. And one of the quotes I like that you have, I have it written down, you go, it is our light, not our darkness, that scares us the most.
That means so much to me.
Shed some insight, because that's all about perspective. And I feel the ones who are, you know, if you equate success to a tangible object, or you equate success to an idea, or, you know, an action, it's all about how we wire that, how we twist, you know, the light or the darkness. Where did that come from, and how long have you had this mindset, and maybe what was the inspiration behind that, the quote?
You know, when I read that quote, I thought that just pulled so many strings with me, because it wasn't, I've achieved a lot of things from darkness, and I think, what can I achieve when I truly believe, from the light that's in with me, the spark? I always knew I had a spark. I think I just lost it for a while, because maybe I was too scared to step out and tell people that I believed in myself. Or, you know, I think a lot of people are scared to say what they truly want to achieve in case they don't, or in case other people think they're egotistical or they think they're better than them. But then what's the point of being like that?
Yeah,
what is the point of trying to achieve if you can't actually truly tell people what you really want to believe, want to achieve? Yeah. And so, you know, the first step was saying, you know what, I want to be the world champion.
Did you write that down anywhere?
I wrote it on a board. I've written it again. Yep. My calendar, world champion. I wrote it there, and I took a photo of it. And it wasn't till, you know, I'd won that I went through my photos and I wrote that down. And I remember, you know, my boyfriend said to me, you should share that. And I said, no, I can't. Why? I can't share that. And I was petrified. Yeah. What if I didn't make it? And then I'm like, well, what's the point of striving for it if you're not going to share it, you know? So, it's, yeah, the lightness. People are scared to really see what they can truly believe when they just let themselves shine.
You have to go all in.
You have to go all in. Play full out, 100% every day.
Yeah, you mentioned when you're on stage, you're like a lioness, and you mentioned the word pride, not ego. And as you continually evolve and your brand grows and you keep performing and outperforming people all across the globe, you have like a following now, and like there's young women and, you know, men alike who see things in you and see things in your competitors that they could pull from, in terms of, like you said, like how vulnerable do you have to be to literally stand on a stage after you, because all we get to see is that finished product. We don't get to see those months and weeks and years of prep work and those tears and just sweating it out. We get to see that finished product. So let's talk about the adversity leading up to those moments, maybe before Toronto, or maybe, you know, you got London in a month or so. Were there ever moments you wanted to quit? Were there ever moments that you second-guessed yourself? And now looking back, hindsight 2020, you use those moments of like, you know, inspiration?
If you'd asked me how I felt about winning the world titles 3 months ago from before this, where I am now, I was in a completely different place mentally. I was actually fully dreading, you know, competing again. What if I didn't win? What if I wasn't truly good enough? Something that everyone's got that thing in their mind that pulls them back, that stops them from going, oh no, don't do that. You know, maybe you should do this. And mine's been around for a very long time, and it was not good enough. So I continue to keep achieving, trying to achieve, hitting all these things, but it's still not good enough because my self-belief was, no, you are not good enough. And it wasn't till I sat back and thought...
Is this even after you won?
This is even after I won.
Wow.
You know, and it was like, where did this come from? And I have to address this because if I want to win, and I truly want to win, I want to be able to sit with it and go, yes, you were good enough. You are good enough.
Win or lose, right?
Win or lose, you are good enough. And I had to really do some work on that. And I had to change my stories in my head, and I had to change my belief system and my value system. And because the not good enough kept me achieving. So it served me a purpose for a long time. But when you get to your end goal and you're not satisfied, that's almost a failure to me. Success or achievement without feeling success, or success without feeling achievement is what is that? It's almost like failure. It's the worst thing you could do because you've worked so hard, you got there, and it's like...
So how would you equate that? Like, if I were to ask you right now, you know, Hattie BOYDLE, how do you define success? What is your answer?
How do I define success? Knowing that I put my heart and soul into every single day leading up to that show, and that I truly knew that I progressed mentally, physically, spiritually. So for me, I feel like where I'm at right now, I'm 100 times ahead of where I was last year.
That's awesome.
I have never been this happy, or this, you know, I guess, positive within myself. I can't remember the last time I was like this.
So is it a matter of the preparation? Because I feel whenever we have goals or achievements that we want to achieve, and if we're not prepared, that could lead to a little bit of, you know, unwillingness to go all in. Maybe we're not as confident. It seems to me they always say, for instance, you know, Jordan, it took Jordan 7 years, Michael Jordan I'm speaking of, he didn't win a playoff series until his 7th year. He kept losing. It was that famous shot he hit in Game 5 in Cleveland, Ohio against the Cavs where he won his first playoff series, and then the next 3 years he won 3 titles. And it was because he always says, there's this famous quote about, I missed X amount of shots, I lost X amount of games, I was relied on this many times to win a game, and because I failed over and over and over, it's why I succeed. And it's almost like we need that, but how many people will stop or quit before they get to that moment of like culmination? So I think that's really important. What would you say on the competitor? Like, how long have you competing? Years now, right?
Yeah. Over
2, 3, 4, 5 years. Think about the girls when you first started, and now how many of them are still competing? Probably not a lot, or not a lot. And look where you are today. Do you think it's one of these things that you were better than them from day one, or is it that you just didn't quit?
I think it's that I didn't quit. I think I'm continually hungry for success in myself and progression. Every year you can refine your progress. Every year I'm very much, I love self-development. And self-development for me
You're in the right place.
Mindset.
Yep.
And this prep, I think 60% of my effort has gone to my mindset, because it's not my body that's going to let me down. That's not the thing that's holding me back. It's my mind. It was my mind. Now that is the thing that is pushing me forward every single day.
Are you doing anything to develop that? Like, are you into like we talk a lot about on the show? Like, I'm into sensory deprivation. I do the flow tank every Sunday. It's, you know, acupuncture, gua sha, a lot of body work. Share with us a little bit about the things that you have in your routine that helps you kind of detach from all of this stimulus.
I start my first half of my day with myself. So I wake up. I meditate, and to be honest, I used to hate meditation. I thought, this is such a waste of time. I didn't appreciate it because I thought I wasn't good at it. And So what I did was learn to go, okay, well, this is going to be my 10 minutes, 20 minutes of my own focus. Where do I want that to go? What energy do I want to set for myself every single day? So I used the meditation to set my own energy, set my own tone every morning. And of course, there are days where your mind wanders. But every day I say incantations. I am love, I am playful, I am a warrior, I am unstoppable, I'm a champion. And I just over and over and over and over again, and I set my own energy for the day. And then I'll train. So I try not to be on my phone, I try not to be in work. And then once I've done everything for myself and I'm satisfied, I've got the rest of the day to help others. And because I'm in a beautiful state, I'm in a good state, I can truly help people around me because I'm not focused on myself. I've done that. I can focus on others now. That's
a beautiful thing. It's one of the reasons, a big reason I wanted to have this chat with you, because you're not one of these people, like social media is filled with people who can take a good photo, and this is coming from a place of love, this isn't coming from a place of hate, I'm just trying to paint the picture. People will take a good photo, or maybe they have a big following, maybe they were in the industry, maybe they were a model, and then they jump into the fitness waters. You are in the trenches. You are a coach. You're a coach first, and you said helping people. Let's transition a little bit and talk about the Sports Model Project.
Yep.
And share with us a little bit about who is that for, what your intent with that is, and how it can help everybody.
So the Sports Model Project, initially it started out because I wanted to create a community of women that could love and support each other. It was a safe place. It's for women to come together and grow and, share their success, share their failures, share their growth. Because I felt like for a long time there wasn't a community that was there for women like that, and there's such a powerful thing when women band together. And initially it was, for girls to train together and compete together. So it was like a squad, like what I used to do with gymnastics. We all competed, we all trained together every day, and then we compete against each other. But we had an amazing friendship. And that's what I wanted for the Sports Model Project. So it started in-house, and it's moved just to online. And it's not just for women that want to compete. It's for women that want to change themselves mentally, physically, spiritually, honestly, to be the best versions of themselves. So that when they're the best versions of themselves, they can be the best wife for their partner. They can be the best mother for their kids. They can be the best sister, the best daughter. And they can share the values and the ways of the Sports Model Projects to other people. Because I want to make the world a happier place. And it has to start with you.
For sure.
Because the relationship that you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship you have with anyone else.
Yeah, one of the young girls who works here, she heard you were coming in, and she was like, Hattie is just so real. I follow her. She talks about the good, the bad. She's not afraid to show her vulnerabilities and flaws. And I was actually going to, she wanted me to ask you a specific question. It's from Nicola, and okay. I'm sure she's awesome. And she wanted to know about, because she's really interested in competing and getting into that industry, but she has, in her head, she has flaws with her aesthetics, what it looks like. She wanted me to ask you, going into 2017, could you share a little bit about what your flaws are and what you're doing to improve on them?
So, it's funny, over years I used to have a really bad body image. And over years I realised it wasn't my body, it was my mind. And that needed work. So my flaw, I believe, is the pressure that I create for myself to continue to be better. And I think I very much have nailed that.
So the flaw, you're saying the flaw is you put too much pressure on trying to personally develop? Or to be perfect?
To be not perfect, but to keep achieving. Keep stepping it up, always stepping it up, always stepping it up.
Doubling down, man, you got to.
And there's no end to self-development, there's no end to progress. I think, is she talking about flaws in my physique?
I think she is, because she was talking about, we are our own toughest critic.
I've got them.
Yeah. Because she's like, Jonny, I can't, my glutes, and I can't develop them. I'm doing all these kickbacks, et cetera, et cetera. Could you just ask her maybe what hers are, and then give some insight on the training aspect of what you're doing to improve on that?
Okay, so I believe one of my weakest links is my core, and I neglected abs for years because I just really don't enjoy doing abs.
So you're saying your core is your weakest link?
My core is my weakest link. It's actually probably the weakest part of my body, and it's only in the last kind of 8 months that I've started to work on that because I realised, you know, I can't have a missing link if I'm going to be the world champion.
Share with everyone what you're squatting though too, because she's saying her core is weak. I'm reading numbers and I'm hearing from other coaches and guys listening at home watching from America. Sydney, Australia is filled with a bunch of killers, and the strength and conditioning game, both male and female, and the coaching perspective. And I'm getting from every corner about your power lifts and your strength. So, you know, I always tell my clients the best way to develop a strong core is by squatting and deadlifting. What are you squatting and deadlifting?
So
and what are you what are you competing when you're on stage? At what weight? And now all you guys be ready to feel insecure.
So my best squat is 145 kilos. What's that? 300 and something pounds.
Dude, that's a lot. Yeah, it's gonna be times 2.2. It's over 300. Probably like 312.
And I did that at 57 kilo body weight. And actually, all my PBs are done dieting.
Wow.
All of them.
Depleted. Is that just a timing thing, or is that a strategy from your coach?
Just timing. Like, my prep from last year is very different from this year.
145, that's
145, great. And my deadlift, which I don't deadlift, I might deadlift twice a year, if that, is 150. I think it was at 160, I can't remember. One of those two. And again, I don't deadlift because for me, my erectors get really thick.
Okay.
And so I've had to drop back all my squatting and deadlifting to improve on my waist size. And so I've had to put in ab work, like isolated ab work, to bring out my abdominals.
And what sort of things could you share with us? And what sort of ab exercises that you would recommend then? Okay,
so the way I've broken it up recently is I have one day I'll have where I do a lot of isometric holds. I'll do things like ab wheel rollouts, dish holds, even plank, where I'll reach out, so like working through my cross sling because it's very weak. And then the next day I'll do like reverse or hanging leg raises, reverse crunches, upper ab crunches, and just different variations of that. So one day is like is my holding, neutral spine kind of stuff, and then the next is more movement, and I just do that on off, and I'll, you know, change up the rep ranges or the sequence so that my body's always getting a slightly different stimulus.
Excellent. And are these things do you have any non-negotiables in your training, no matter what time of the year it is, or if you're getting ready for a comp or you're prepping? Are there like certain things that you have in your like invisible tool belt, your go-to sort of exercises that you keep a secret that you could share with us?
Oh man, I pretty much share all my exercises, but to be honest with you, I have been doing a lot of, I love single leg hip extension work for the glutes. I do glutes twice a week with a hell of a lot of volume, and because what was happening, because I was doing so much squatting, was I was imbalanced between my right and left side. So I actually took out all my bilateral work and now I only do single leg work because I needed to improve on my symmetry and also my strength. And for me, single leg hip extensions of variations, I put like 1 1/4 in, I put holds, I put, you know, elevated shoulder and feet, even single leg reverse hypers for high rep ranges till I cannot lift my leg, killers. And to be honest with you, I used to really undervalue body weight work, single leg work, because I was just doing so much squatting, and at that time my goal was to be really strong and also really lean. So I achieved that goal, but now I need to improve on things, and so your training must change to be more specific to your goal.
Yeah, we were, that's great advice to anyone listening out there as well, and you're very well versed on the different variations of specifically your body. One of the things that I feel a lot of us, we have this disconnection with how our own body moves and what works for us. So I was recently interviewing, he was a coach of mine in college. He's in his 60s. He's an NFL strength coach. And he didn't bring you up specifically, but you were brought up by another guy who's a friend of the show. And I want to talk about your relationship with Brett and what that experience was like going to Arizona, and you know everybody. He brought you up on our show, and
such a legend.
yeah, talk about that and the importance of, you mentioned earlier, surrounding yourself around people that you can learn from, surrounding yourself around somebody that is either here, and you know, talk about that experience with Brett Contreras.
So, you know, I'm very thankful that Brett let me stay with him or train with him for the week in Arizona. I had never met him in my life, and I reached out to him. I'd been following a lot of his stuff. He is the go-to man for glute training, yeah. And very smart guy. Oh, so...
He's such a researcher.
Oh, man. I'm like, you're such a big nerd.
Yeah, for sure.
And so spending that week with him was great, because literally all we did was talk about glutes. You know, being a fitness model, or I mean, I've been working with my body. You know, I've been training for 10 years. Before that, I was a elite gymnast. I know my body so well. So we would talk about different variations of hip extensions, abduction, squatting, hip thrusting, glute bridges, banded hip work, and we would exchange our ideas or you know, our different experience with foot positions, leg positions, hip positions, and I think he learned a fair bit from me, and I learned a lot from him, of course. And I was lucky enough to train in the glute lab with him every night, and also do the EMG testing. So the EMG testing is where they put the electro kind of magnetic fields on your glutes and your quads and your hamstrings and the lower back. And we did, you know, your hip extension, your glute thrust, what were they, frog pumps, squat, deadlift, lunge. And I also said, you know, for myself, when I do my glute work, I feel my glutes the most when I do a single leg hip extension with a 1 1/4 and single leg deadlifts. Can we try them and see what the results are?
Yeah, with the
EMG testing. Yeah. And so, you know, for me, when I do a lunge, I don't really feel my glutes that much, but for other women that had done the EMG testing, that was one of the highest recruiters for them. For me, it was mostly quad and adductors and hamstring. Then I did the single leg deadlift from the floor, and like my EMG testing was so high for my glute recruitment that, yeah, for me, that is a great exercise. So we could actually put together the exercises that I use frequently in my own training, because I know for myself that they work really well. So he was using the apparatus, and you were doing the movements, and he was able to test the variances of the efficacy of each one? Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Wow. Is that and that's why, you know, shout out to Brett, guys like him, and, you know, the Kelly Starretts of the world, and Joe DeFranco, my man, it's putting an industry constantly evolving. What was the biggest thing you learned over there? And then is there anything that you've taken back with you, maybe one specific thing that, you know, getting ready for England or London, you kind of have a little extra confidence in you, maybe something?
You know, it was really, he and I did an Instagram live talking about your genetics and the role that they play in muscle hypertrophy, particularly in the glutes. Because, you know, you get a lot of girls that are hustling hard to build these glutes. You know, they've been training for a year, and it's like, yeah, there's a bit of difference, but there's not something big. And then you've got some girls that train for 6 weeks, and they've got these ridiculous glutes. And it was just really interesting to hear his side, and obviously all the research that he had done on, the importance of your genetics and your, you know, how your body will respond to training. Because, there are people that are hustling hard out there, and they're just not getting the results. And, you know, a lot of the time, you know, as a coach, I would be like, oh my God, why isn't this changing? Like, you know, this girl's doing this program, she's doing the program, and this girl's glutes training, you know, and this girl's aren't. It's like, are your hips tight? What's happening? Are you not doing it properly? But actually, a lot of it is genetic makeup. So that was a big takeaway for myself, to be able to, you know, talk to my own clients about and listen to that. But then I think now when I train, I really focus on hitting, you know, I do a lot of abduction work now, kickback work, extension work, just making sure I'm hitting every single angle of my glute so that I can create a really nice, you know, symmetry through my old glutes and grow them as much as I can.
This might sound like I don't know how this question is going to be phrased, but I played yeah, I'm just
interested. Tell me.
yeah, right. I'm very interested. The reason why I want to ask this question is because I played high-level sports in America, baseball and football. And for instance, in college, if we had a guy if we were playing against a team and we knew the kid on the, we were facing was either taking, some supplements that weren't allowed, or, for instance, maybe their best hitter was, on something that would get tested, that would affect us. You talked about the glutes growing. In this day and age of the Kardashians, and you see everybody wants the shortcut. We have microwaves, impulsive, Ubers, that sort of thing. We want it now. We don't want to work for it. Is there ever an instance in your sports where you see a girl on stage and she has and maybe she has implants or glute implants?
No,
Would that,
I've seen it.
And is that noticeable?
Yeah, I mean,
And do the judges talk about that? Because I was interested because you think that somebody would try to test those waters and taking the easy way out.
The thing is that you can see it.
Okay.
You can really see it, and if you get glute implants, which I highly recommend you do not, if you don't train your glutes as well and your hamstrings, the
gravity, do they just sag?
Sag. So there was a girl that walked out on stage at a show I was judging earlier in the year, and from the front she looked amazing, and she turned around, I was like, what? And I had to the judge was like, yeah, she's got glute implants. And I'm like, why would you do that? You were better off having no bum than having this huge thing out the back that's sagging. It was just so, blew my mind that you would waste your money on such a thing.
Is that an instant, what is it? You get penalized for it, or you kicked off the comp?
No, you don't get penalized, but it's just, I was embarrassed, to be honest.
Okay.
And, I mean, it's hard for me to say. I'm lucky with my genetics. I mean, I still got to work hard, but yeah, I can grow glutes. I don't know what it would be like for someone that can't grow glutes, but you're better off trying as hard as you can than investing in that and then going, what if these don't work? It's just... Yeah,
I think that has different frequencies too when we want to take the easy way or the shortcut to get, short-term gains, not looking at the long-term effects sort of thing. I was talking to a guy recently, American, and he's a huge following. He's a public speaker. He tours, and we were talking about social media, and he was talking how he grew his Twitter, Facebook, Insta, YouTube from scratch. It's taken him 7 years, and he's constantly grinding and grinding and grinding. And we were talking about the likes and dislikes and how now I just turned 35. So when I was in college, we didn't even have a computer lab. I went to the University of Pittsburgh. Yeah, hopefully they have a computer lab now. It's a good school. but I couldn't imagine being 18 years old now and only knowing social media or only knowing this way of life of touching a phone and not picking a phone up or calling. I had one of the turnstile things back in the day.
I remember them.
Do you remember those?
Yeah,
the turnstile phones. And we don't remember numbers anymore either. One of my fears is what if I got arrested? I get one call. Who am I gonna call? I don't know anybody's numbers. And I got to think that way. You never know.
Just remember moms.
Yeah, you're right. She's in Ohio. What's up, Mom? Rosie. But I want to talk to you about give a shout out. I want to talk to you about social media, maybe some likes and dislikes, some advice to maybe some people struggling, because in the fitness and wellness space, it's an awesome way to promote. It's an awesome way to get your message across if the content is right. What's your favorite thing about social media, and talk maybe a little bit about some dislikes with it?
So, I actually really like this question. Social media for me is a hobby. I really believe it can be used for great things. And for me, it's about sharing my journey. I don't sell on social media. I don't, sell the Sports Club project. So therefore, I just use it as a platform to be able to showcase the things I love to share, which is my progress, my values, my belief, my feelings, my journey. And that's kind of all I use it for. And I guess there was a time where I was getting really quite caught up in the followers and the likes, and I realized it was actually making me miserable. And that's when because the first thing I would do is get up in the morning and do a post. That post wasn't for me, that was for other people. And I realized that wasn't making me happy, so I changed it, and I said, I put my phone on flight mode every night, and I do my meditation, all that stuff. And then once I finish with, creating my own energy, then I'll turn my Instagram on and I might do a post if that's how I'm feeling for that day.
Yeah.
So now I've actually taken a step back from social media, and I'll post when the content is right. I'll post when there's actually something worth posting. Is it a beautiful photo and I want to share it? Awesome. Is there an exercise video? Is there a PB? Am I feeling a certain way that I think, maybe people can resonate with this? Am I excited about something? Am I feeling a little bit low? Well, maybe I'll share it. But it's not my life. It's not, if someone likes it, awesome. If they don't, doesn't matter. Yeah. I do want to be able to use my social media to start addressing, charities or the environment. I'm very big on helping the environment. And so I would like to use that platform to help a community or something that doesn't actually have anything to do with me, like something as a whole, like,
Do you have any charities off the top that you want to plug? Sorry to put you on the spot. There is one, maybe?
So my cousin has autism, and the government have taken away the funding for their buses, their school buses. So now the workers have to, get the kids in the car and take them themselves, whereas it used to just be a big school bus.
So they cut funding.
So I would like to be able to, I'm just working with them at the moment to try and raise money to get even a second-hand school bus to help them. Because I love them. They think I'm Sandy from Greece. Killing it.
Yeah, right? Greece is a great... I always get Travolta.
Oh my God, we are a team.
Yes. Only when the women from 45 to 70 without, who you look like? You look like that guy. But yeah, it's a good, the Australian, the funding, do you feel that this is something that, you said you had to believe in yourself. Do you see, because one of the questions I want to ask you, and we're already here, is 10 years from now, your vision, when you're done competing, what is Hattie BOYDLE doing then?
I've been asked this question so much recently. To be honest, I love media. I love performing. And I guess once my itch for competing has died down, I'd like to be able to perform. So that's interviewing, being on media.
Creative Fitness Network.
Creative Fitness work. To be able to reach more people and teach them the values that I teach my girls, teach them the values that I teach myself. I would love if everyone felt the way I did on a daily basis.
Right.
Life is good, I'm happy and I want other people to be happy. I listen to so many women and they just create these storms in their own minds about themselves, and I think, you would never say those words to your daughter or your sister or your best friend, so why say it to yourself? And I think it's important to learn to create a nice environment for yourself, because that's going to make you a happier person, and then, it's a domino effect.
Yeah, the energy we put out, for sure.
Your energy is so important.
It's infectious.
Yeah.
It's like, the Maya Angelou quote, you could tell a man anything, they won't remember, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And, that one's always stuck with me. We reached the point in the show. It's a little quick rapid-fire segment. I call it Little Known Facts. So I'm going to just say, and you're just going to answer. I don't want you even thinking about it. We're going to start right now.
God, I'm nervous.
Hattie BOYDLE, traits you look for in people.
Funny, witty, intelligent, easygoing, happy, playful, but funny. I love funny people.
Values you look for in yourself.
Values I look for myself: self-belief, playfulness, courage, community, contribution, love. I think
that's good. The best advice you were ever given?
God, I've had so much good advice. Not everyone's going to like you.
That's awesome.
That's what my mum told me when I was little, but I learnt that anyway.
Right. A unique talent.
Oh, I don't have one.
Okay, I'll let you get off the hook here. And the last one, if you were the Prime Minister today, you were just voted as the PM of Australia, what would the first thing you would do?
Make everyone get a keep cup.
What was that? Make
everyone get a keep cup.
A keep cup.
A keep cup for coffee?
Okay, there you go.
I
coffee
promise
culture.
I'm not going to get a coffee unless I've got my keep cup, so I can stop
saving
using...
things. Right, that's a good idea. So you don't have to throw all this stuff away. The environment. Everybody watching, get on it. Follow Hattie at hattieboydle.com.au. thesportsmodelproject.com, Hattie BOYDLE on Instagram, Hattie BOYDLE Performance Coach on Facebook. Snapchat, did I miss anything? Anything you want to add, feel free. Drop it right now, Hattie BOYDLE.
My Snapchat is Hattie_BOYDLE. I'm still getting used to that one, I'm not going to lie.
Awesome. And I just want to say before I let you go, I really appreciate you sharing this space with me.
Thank
Everybody
you.
watching, this was really fun, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
that
you.
was awesome.
Awesome. Excellent.
Thanks, guys.